Welcome to Collecting Consciousness, where we aim to capture the ever-expanding and evolving conscious creations that originate from the minds of fellow podcasters, strangers, dear friends, and loved ones.
In this podcast, we will expand on our inner wisdom and a coming home to self. From our conscious minds to yours, we welcome you to the Collecting Consciousness.
So welcome to another episode of Collecting Consciousness. We are here with a really special guest that we are super excited to get to know today and excited to share him with you all. And before we get started, I would like to just guide us in a little bit of breath work to center us in our bodies, drop us into our Dantian energy center, and allow us just to slow down a little bit in this moment together. So wherever you're at, if it's available to you, I invite you to gently close your eyes if this feels good. And just bring awareness to your breath in this moment. And bringing awareness without judgment, without trying to change it. Just allowing your breath to be what it is. And on the count of 3, I want you all to exhale. 3, 2, 1. Exhale all the way out. Allow the belly to completely empty of breath. And then pause at the bottom for a count of 1, 2, allowing the breath to fill back up the body, allowing the belly to expand on the inhale, allowing the chest to rise as this breath enters in the body without force. When you get to the top of the inhale, pausing for 2 counts, 2, 1, and allowing the exhale to begin. Allowing the breath to leave the body, allowing it to empty all the way out. And when you get to the bottom of the exhale, holding for 2, 1, 2. Allowing the breath to enter back into the body without force. Allowing the belly to soften and expand as the chest rises and fills with this breath. Pausing at the top for 2, 1. Exhaling. Allowing the breath to completely empty. Pausing at the bottom for 2, 1. Maybe hold it for a moment more. And then allowing your breath to return to its normal rate, to its natural rhythm. And now noticing if anything has shifted in the body. Has the breath shifted in its depth and its rate? Has your mind shifted in its judgment? Wherever you're at, just allowing the breath to be what it is and its softness and its perfectness. And as we all join in this moment together, I invite Courtney to give us a little prayer of intention, setting the space.
Thank you, Bethany. Welcome in a new day. A new day to expand conscious minds, to allow wisdom to flow through us from within, that exudes out of us. We welcome in new experiences, We welcome in open hearts. We welcome in the collecting consciousness. Take your time coming back, but here we are in the present moment, as that is what we are always in. The present moment is a gift. So let us welcome in all that needs to be perfectly imperfect. We welcome you to collecting consciousness.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Gently opening your eyes if they're still closed. And we're going to jump right in. We have a special guest today. Super excited to introduce Justin McCarthy. And he is someone I am excited to get to know. And I know you from a distance. And what I know of you is that you have some experience with various plant medicines that have brought you along on your journey, maybe expanded you on your journey. You work with, I believe, co-ed groups, doing retreats, doing virtual online circles, maybe in-person circles. I'm excited to learn more about that in this episode too, what you're offering currently in life. I know that you do some coaching, it seems like with various people on various levels. And I know that in our previous conversation, we chatted a little bit about human design. And this is a new little thing that you're dabbling into and excited about. And so we're excited to share that. And if I left anything out, please fill in the rest. I think I don't want to speak wrong, but there might be some breath work facilitating that you have done in the past or currently. So yeah, Justin, if you want to give us a little introduction. And first, we like to let people get off their hearts what is most present for you right now. So in this present time of your life, what is on the forefront of your heart and your mind? Just to sort of start off.
Interesting that the first thing that came up to me is while you're doing a bit of the introduction and speaking about me and what it is that I do, is there's things that I do that are flashing through to add and fill in the blanks there. But the big thing that stood out, which is something that doesn't always stand out for me, is gratitude. And that's not to be trendy or kind of falling in line with what's out there. I want to point out that it's actually quite rare for me to go towards gratitude. And that's the first thing that came up, is that I'm grateful to be on this call with you both and to be able to spread a little bit more of a message or hope or peace or whatever it is that some listener gets from this message. And hopefully there's some illumination with ideas or light bulbs or sparks of imagination for them. I've really wanted to sort of be in this reverse role, sitting in where you're sitting, and it's slowly coming together, but I've been patient with it to run my own sort of interview host podcast type thing. And I know it's coming, and I've had technical difficulties last winter trying to get it up and going, and the universe just like totally stonewalled me multiple times and as I tried to do it. So I just kind of took the back seat and said, okay, you'll show me when I'm ready to go for this. So moving kind of in towards and adding on to what it is that you do, I'll go through more of the timeline of my background of where this kind of started, and then where the different modalities and things that I do came in place. So as many people do, I was having an existential crisis, but it was over a very long period of time. I was dealing with different therapists, moving different places, and a lot of my trends and things that were happening, I was breaking down mentally, big time mentally breaking down. And I didn't think I was the problem. I was definitely a projector, meaning pushing all the problems in my life outwards that everybody else and everything I seen was the problem. Really, it was just a very big reflection of my internal chaos. Um, so as I went through years of this, I destroyed a marriage in the process, left that marriage. And during that time of leaving, I was already going through this grand awakening with a rupture and cognitive change of who I seen myself as and the world as, and everything kind of lit up during that year of divorce and separation. And then it was a full split. And I was really born again into who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And trying to recognize the holes that were in my life at that time. And one of those was the fact that I didn't have any men that I had around me that I could really trust and lean into and open my heart to. So that's what I looked for, was what was kind of becoming more trendy at the time, or well known as men's work. So I went to a men's retreat in Peru, facilitated by a good brother of mine now. And I met a collection of men that wanted to open up their hearts and their souls and to be seen and heard, and also to hold space and learn how to do that for other people. So while there, I was introduced to plant medicine because there was two things that I wanted to put together, which was the healing ability of psychedelics, because pharmaceuticals and traditional Western therapy wasn't working for me. So I moved away from that and I went to find psychedelics, the brew of ayahuasca. And while searching for that, it was also with men's work. So it was a perfect retreat, a 10-day retreat in Peru in the Sacred Valley. And during that first trip to South America, I was introduced to a bunch of other medicines that I didn't know anything about. And now those are ones that I work with. Not that when I first did them, I was like, I'm going to work with these. When I first did them, I was like, these are terrible. I absolutely thought they were horrible. And not until I started to dive more into them and I dropped that judgment of them, that I started to recognize their healing abilities and the potential that they have. So I wanted to be able to introduce these medicines in a way that people understood them before they received them, because I was like, receive them, experience, draw a judgment because it was a terrible experience, or what I thought was to be a terrible experience, and then having to undo that judgment to understand at the root what these things are and why they're used. So after that, I went through a bunch of different places and retreats and self-discovery and really just blossoming into this new person. And during that time, I started to recognize that there was things that I wanted to do or needed to do and felt kind of called to do, which was to help. Like I had more of a voice and more of a insight on what was happening consciously around us. So to be able to put those things into practice, as well as to articulate them to people that just didn't know where to go. And that's where Newfound Awakening ended up coming from. So even though Opus is the kind of main title of the business and that side of things, the overarching umbrella is Newfound Awakening. And so my handle for social media and stuff is Newfound Awakening. Newfound coming from Newfoundland, where I'm from, and the awakening of this new enlightened consciousness that we try to bring ourselves into this evolution of who we are in this world, and to recognize and self-efface that we are here doing what we're doing and trying to figure out mysteries of life together collectively. So I ended up going from extreme mental health issues with mental illness, true mental illness, and a lot of diagnosis, all the way to working with natural remedies and medicines from ancient traditions and tribe traditions from South America, and bringing that full circle into helping other people, specifically, notably men.
So real quick, I have a question. Why is it? Yeah, just like highlighting the men's portion of this conversation is just like, why is it that is lacking so much in the world? Like, why are men so broken from one another? Why is that not something that has, is it like, where did that fracture happen? in our development as humans, because women seem to have this harnessing of like, like we need each other, that sisterhood, like, and we've even lost that in various degrees, but I think it's way more acceptable and present that women have their circles and we are the woo woo, we're doing it, and and it's acceptable. But like men, where did that fracture come from? Have you like pondered that in your journey with rediscovering your connection and your need for that connection? Like have you kind of like unpacked where did that fracture come from and why does it exist? And yeah, I'm curious about that because you're so in it and I would love to know.
A great question. And as you were asking that question and kind of navigating through it, what was coming to me, and this is 100% my opinion on this, is I don't think there was ever actually a fracture, but an actual needing of an evolution within the man. So I don't feel like men that lost something or lost is that we were or needs to evolve. I think there is a metamorphosis here that is happening and an evolution that's happening within the idea of what is a man and what's a man in our role in society as a partner, as a part of the other half of the yin and yang in this dynamic of dualism within our species. And this is actually breaking up even more with the movement of transgender and intersex and this idea of polarities and bi being two but being more. So we're actually evolving even further, I believe, as humans, and going even further and branching out. But for men, I don't believe it was a fracture, but a re-emergence or an evolution into something new. Now, when I think about the differences between a man and a woman specifically, I can only speak from my own internal perspective on what it is to be a man, because I see myself as this, I feel myself as this, and this is what I'm living. And my assumptions would have to be on what a woman is, because I don't know what that experience is. I can only gather that information from an external kind of a viewpoint. What I've noticed is that women have this ability, this natural ability to have this grounded intuition that many men don't have. And I don't know if it's a hormonal change or switch between the two. But one of the things is a rite of passage. And that rite of passage, some women get the opportunity to have children and birth children. So when they have this is a rite of passage into this, like, I am a human here on earth having this child, going through this process in my humanness. And women get to ground deeply into this. Men don't have this experience in this rite of passage. So the big thing about going into men's work and doing these medicines and doing psychedelic experiences, and these are about rites of passage for men. Most boys going into manhood don't have this rite of passage. Long time ago, hundreds of years ago, we used to have going to the fishing grounds, the farm fields. We used to go to war with our elders. These are the things that we used to go into to go from being a boy into a man. And as we got into the office space or became the agrarians or just quickly farmed monocrop fields, these things weren't as rite of passage for men. They weren't things that were bringing a boy into manhood with hard labor, cheating, death, and these types of things that make you realize, like, I'm alive here. So we have
Courage
a
and
lot of
strength.
men, exactly, and vulnerability and showing up and being accountable. So all these dynamics of what we could classify for what is masculine or man, we didn't really adopt them or harness them and allow these things to grow within ourselves. It just became increasingly more of a competitive nature, let's say in the stock market or somewhere like this, where you can really see it exacerbated. So I think there's a bit of a difference there where women have this. When I observe women in a group and I observe men in a group, there's very distinct differences, and women do seem to have this collective grounding And maybe it's through vulnerability. This is my kind of like letting it out here now as I'm
Mm-hmm.
analyzing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of vulnerability and softness or a gentleness that I think
Mhm.
comes with women that is acceptable, that ends up like meshing what would be maybe comparative like a grazing animal, that they can be together like a flock of birds or gazelle, where they're not harmful to one another. Lions are harmful to one another. If you put different lions together, they will fight. And so if they're not from the same pride, they will fight. They will see competition and they will want to take alpha. So this is the dynamic of where I can see women easily fitting together and men having to be more conscious that these other men aren't a threat to them. So
Totally.
you don't have to be that lion, and you can allow yourself to be seen and felt and heard by other men in a space that I provide and other people provide as well.
Mm.
I love that.
Well
Sorry,
said.
I'm dealing with a really puppy dog. We spoke too soon there earlier. He is on the tear. I just want to let you know he is on the tear. So I love everything that you're saying. I'm also like simultaneously watching him try to chew everything in his sight right now. So we're trying to manage that. But but I do love what you're saying, and I know what you mean by that vulnerability. And I think you're on point with the intuition of the feminine. That is a divine gift that we are given. And I do think I mean, I like to get sciencey because I got the nursing background. So I'm always like, yeah, like I geek out on that part of how we operate as well as the spiritual. So I do think there is something with the hormones, estrogen specifically, that does help us connect hemispheres of the brain in a different way that may allow us to have a deeper intuition. Um, but I love how you framed it's an emergence, it's a reemergence of something that was lost with the men's groups. Like I love that. Like there was never, I guess in a sense, there might have been a hairline fracture when we started stepping into like the business world and the
The
things you spoke of.
constructs.
Yeah, when those ways of living shifted, there might have been like a hairline fracture. But I love this thought. I like the way to view it as a reemergence of something that once was, there.
What was
And
going through my mind, Bethany, just want to add a little
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It was like a coming home. It's like just shedding those constructs and realizing, oh no, 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 this is who we've always been. Let's just break down these constructs of what society has given to us of how we're supposed to show up, like the ever changing of the worlds. But really, it's just a coming home to self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so your journey with this started with the plant medicine, behind it, which I do agree is such a heart expanding, vulnerable. You talk about vulnerability when you're in a plant medicine ceremony with people, you are like, there's no hiding. There's no hiding much, really. And that's a huge place to be with strangers, so kudos to you to do that without knowing these people. That's a beautiful, like super vulnerable place to put yourself. Like, yeah, like in any way that I could even think of it, like that is the most vulnerable way that you could probably enter into this process. And so I guess my question now is, now that you've stepped into this world of doing more like these virtual, I think they're men's group. Are they mostly men's groups, or is it men's and co-ed mixed in there? Is it mostly men's that you do the virtual circles or the in-person?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do a weekly men's circle online, and I've been doing that for over a year now, roughly about 17 months. And it's every Tuesday. Haven't missed a beat since it started. Even when I'm gone, I have someone cover for me. And I ended up going towards all men, specifically as a men's coach, to kind of niche down as I was working with a business coach and talking about like really defining like who I am and who I'm seen as Opus or as Justin. And as I went into that and kind of move into it, I was working with men and women at the beginning, both coaching. I ended up having a mixed circle. And then I just went strictly with men because I was also seeing that my interactions with men were not only more needed, Not that women don't need it, but like you talked about women kind of getting together and collectively getting together, but men needed more help, and more very much like spot on to man type help. So I went in that direction. It's the thing I know the best. I have 38 years on this planet being who I am and speaking to other men. With a wide array of men I can speak to. So I have 10 years in the military experience. I've been to university, post-secondary, so academics background. I've worked in the trades. I've worked in like high academics. I've worked with laborers. I've worked with business people. I've worked with suits. I've worked with people in coveralls. So like I've done a lot of different things, many hats through my time. So during that experience, I can speak to so many men on their level with a language that they are accustomed to or used to. And being able to do that, I can really break through in conversation with them. So I stuck strictly with men. And when it comes to, I had retreats last year that were just for men, men's retreats. I do the circle that are just men. But you talked about something before about human design.
Mm-hmm.
And as I navigate and open up these new pathways and avenues for myself and where I'm going, I see the reemergence now with men and women, and looking at not so much the breakdown or divide of masculine and feminine or men and women, but looking at the totality of that full synergy of what is. And so as I dive back into something new and start to go down that rabbit hole for myself, I see the reemergence of me working with women in the future again, and moving away from just like this men's work strictly boxed into this kind of place.
So it's interesting you're leading with human design, because that's where my brain was going. And I just kind of wanted to lean into a couple of things that I picked up in your chart.
Can I bookmark one thing real quick before we go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to bookmark real quick. No, because my real question of that one statement was like, so without the plant medicine and the vulnerability in your heart being expanded open, like how is that facilitated in a virtual circle or like your weekly men's groups? Like, do you find that same heart opening vulnerability, or is it hard for people to, or is it hard for specifically the men in the group to access that? Or do you find that it is very accessible because they're being seen by a fellow brother, or like, you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm asking? Yeah. If it's easy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. So if a man is new to that space, there's definitely an apprehension or a jump in. And I've been hosted online. So let's just talk about online specifically. So online, that I call, and picking through others, it's called pop style. So you just pop in when you feel like there's something alive in you and you want to share. You don't cut anybody off, but it's in that lull of the speech in between, and then you can unmute and come in and speak. So with women seem to be just firing off. It's just like boom, 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 and they just get in line like rungs on a stairs, and they just go boom, 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 and climb the ladder. And so with men, there's a longer gap. It's like they sit back and okay, and then I like come off mute and I'm like, the question is again, and I asked the question. I said, whoever feels like there's something a lot. So I have to prompt them a little bit more. This is teaching. So this is a guidance that ends up happening, that now within the people that come continuously to these circles, they know the protocol, they know the structure, and they just jump in. And there's new guys that come in that you can see that hesitancy. You can see that lag in when they want to jump in. I can tell by looking at them, because I've been doing online stuff for long enough. They have something there, but there's a block that won't allow them just to. Yeah, and it is 100%. There's a fear of ridicule. There's an insecurity, rejection. Yeah, guilt, shame, worthiness, and these are things that are at the root of every man. So self-worth and going down to shame is the root of every man's trauma. And this is from little boys all the way to old men. That is the number one thing that every man deals with, is self-worth and shame. And so as I'm going through all of this, men, like we talk about, men are very simple or very easy to understand and cognitively. it's true. Emotionally, we are, because at the root of all of this, like, pyramid that comes down on this one point is shame. We are ashamed of who we are. We are ashamed of what we've done. Ancestrally, going back through generations, our own life, singularly. And at the root of all of that is just our little ball of shame that we hold in our core. And so this is like an amazing thing that ended up coming out. Brene Brown actually, he did a huge study and brought this out and talks about it big time over a TED Talk. And it's incredible to see, like, this is what men hold, is this little grain of shame at their core.
Hmm. And I think what's powerful is that you said, ancestrally, generationally. So it's like, even if you are in this current moment, looking at yourself and you're like, well, really, I don't have much to be shameful for. I've lived a path of, I feel like my life I've been in alignment. I've been in my, I've been acting from my heart space. You still are seated with that shame of what your ancestors went through, what your parents, grandparents, great grandparents went through, and that's a really powerful thing to say, because it's true and it's super deep. Thank you for sharing that. That gives such beautiful insight. And even for me to just like, oh, it makes my heart like tender to just say, wow, like shame is such a dense vibration too. Like, like you talk about gratitude in the beginning of this podcast, we talked about gratitude is like one of the highest vibrations you can hold in your body, of a frequency of energy and emotion. And then like shame is like, I don't know, but it's pretty dense and heavy. So to walk around with that, I just can't even imagine, really. Shame and guilt
and to be able to create an opportunity for people to look within, because nobody escapes this world without having some sort of insecurity, some sort of generational something. So it's being able to create that space for people to show them it's okay to be vulnerable. We all need to look within the inner world to see what's going on in there, so that we can shed light, shed those constructs, and live the life that is truly meant for us.
Yeah.
But also, I do want to lean into that human design. There's a couple of things here, and it ties in with the men's group. So it's so your gate 45 is gate of gathering together, and that is associated with leadership. That is where you can naturally attract others, and you have this innate ability to lead others. So it's all about community. It's all about sharing. So look at you diving in, like it's a gift. That's what human design is about. It's about this blueprint of our lives, where we have different energy types, we have different profiles, we have different gates and channels that are a blueprint of how we can show up. And I think you're stepping into this gate. This gate is coming naturally to you because you are showing leadership. You are showing vulnerability for others to do the same. So kudos to you to stepping into that leadership. And, it's all about, that gate is also linked to the voice. You have a ability to use your voice to influence others, which is where that leading comes from. And then the other gate I just wanted to lean into as well, because they tie in really nicely together, is gate 22. And that's the gate of grace. And it's where you have this particular charm and grace, again, having a natural ability to navigate social situations with ease. You can tap into a deep emotional sensitivity and you have a strong intuition for what people need. So again, these are all about leading, and where you're showing up in these men's retreats is where you can tap into that leadership. It's very much a king queen role. So again, kudos to stepping into your design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like,
it's interesting.
Yeah, go Justin. Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring that up and come into certain gates that are illuminated for me, ones that come naturally. It's really interesting, even the word choices to express the certain numbers, the certain gates, because there's certain gates that are conscious and I'm very aware of, and then there's other ones that are unconscious and also a mix of. And the word choices that you use through each example really illuminates that fact that there is a way that I use my voice, or use that ability. And I talked about having a podcast and doing something like this in the future. And I very much see it. So there's an articulation with the conversation that it allows for, that I know I have an innate ability, and continuing
Yes.
to do it, I'm able to actually refine that tool that is so sharp already for myself. So being able to
Exactly.
see the lane that I'm in, and instead of trying to drive a different vehicle, drive the vehicle
Mhm.
that I'm actually
Exactly.
capable of driving.
Yeah. And I just want to lean into to our viewers. So like Justin was saying, you have unconscious gates where you don't quite know that you're doing it until you've kind of lived your life. And then you tap into your conscious gates that, oh, you're like, oh, this is a gift of mine. Let me lead into this. And really, like, once you kind of get into your 30s, you can start to see those unconscious gates when you're starting to open up, and it can happen earlier, but there's parts of us that we don't realize are unconscious. But then when we come into that conscious mind and we start to see them, well, that's where you can really illuminate your whole chart and be like, what unconscious gifts do I have? And then boom, they start to come out, and then boom, you're conscious of it. So just FYI, guys, if you wanted to learn more about human design, go to mybodygraph.com. You can put in your birthday, all the the stuff that people, your birth date and all those good things. And then you can learn what type of energy type you are. You can learn your profile. So I'm just going to give a little, Justin is a manifesting generator. Me and Bethany are projectors. Manifesting generators are one that are constantly switching gears. And, at first that can feel like a little bit, frustrating. And I'll lean into a question for you after, Justin, but it's like, oftentimes you may not finish tasks because you are constantly switching gears, and that's okay. So sometimes there's a shame with that. Oh shit, I didn't fulfill this. Oh, well, like, what am I doing? No. You are meant to respond to life. You are meant to do the things that feel right to you. You are supposed to be lit up. Manifesting generators are supposed to be lit up. As I learned from a human design gal, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And that's what manifesting generators really need to lean into is, does it fully light you up? Because if it doesn't fully light you up, it's really not meant for you. And another thing I wanted to lean into that. Yeah, so you're meant to respond to life, but you've got a devil, you're a manifester, and you're also a generator. So intertwined manifesting generator, and you are meant to respond, but you're also meant to inform. So manifestors often have this, they don't really need to be told what to do. They already have a vision, and they are meant to just do their thing. So, this also, guys, human design is for the children. It's so that we cannot put these constructs on these kids and let them show up in this world how they're meant to be. So when these little manifesting children are doing their own thing, let them, but teach them to inform people, because when the manifesting generators inform us, that's when we can be like, oh, they have a vision. Let them do their thing. Let him go to Brazil. Let him go learn some fun things out there that's going to really light him up, and let him come back and bring it back to himself. So yeah, that's just, yeah.
And go. Yeah. No, go.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's so manifesting generators are just a really interesting energy type, because they are just like 10 steps ahead of the game. They are skipping steps. They are switching gears often, and they are here to respond to life. So let life flow to you and really dive into what feels good and what doesn't, and you'll see how your life will kind of just like, there will be ease. I mean, we have resistance with life, but when there's so much resistance, take a step back and be like, is this actually for me? And I'll end my little TED Talk.
No, many times. I love it though. I love it. You have a good way of articulating the human design things. And then I want to lean in and ask the manifesting generator that we have before us. Like, I find this all so fascinating, going back to Courtney talking about being a child. Like, were you ever put down for your natural, like, were you I guess sometimes the box that gets put on these kids, I think, that are manifesting generators and their parents don't know it are like ADD or ADHD is a huge label that is put on these children. And I think half the time they're just like, this is who they are. And like and they're too young to know to inform you that they want to do this next thing and this next thing and this next thing, they don't know that skill yet. So did you ever face any of that as a child? Like, did you ever get any of that like labeling or, I don't know. I'm also in the States, so it's a little different here. We like to label and diagnose and prescribe like as much as possible.
I would say in different aspects. So maybe if I break that down into trying to figure myself out amongst my peers and in the place that I grew up, it was very one-dimensional in a fishing community, very small in Newfoundland. And then my mom's a nurse and my dad's a pharmacist, so very much into the Western medical model, but not so strict in it. Like they weren't very like, this is the way it is, but highly educated in constructs in their own right. Luckily, they were the first generation out to go to university, and everybody else in my family were fishermen, very unidirectional, very much like the wives. All my great aunts and all my grandmother's stuff were stay-at-home wives, raised lots of kids, and the men went out to work. So that traditional sense was only 2 generations back from me. So I was lucky in that sense. But then in school, the institution of education, indoctrination in that way, sit down, shut up, be quiet, learn. I wasn't a good student in that fashion. And even if I looked like a good student, inside it was nuts. It was chaos. It was like I didn't want to be there. Would I self-label myself with ADHD or ADD or learning defiance in some way? No, I'd say I was a pretty average kid. Maybe I got my hyperness out because we were extremely active as children, and I had that ability to roam. So we'd be swimming in swimming holes and out on our bikes till dark, and all of our moms would be like calling out from the front porch, like each person's name to come home. I had that freedom growing up as a child. It was fucking amazing. I don't know if I can curse on your podcast.
Yeah, we're all about it.
Yeah, so it was. I'm very blessed to have the childhood that I did and the freedom that I did. We
Can I just tap in?
Yeah,
Justin, I'm also a Newfoundlander, so I'm all for it. There's nothing like finding a nice pond and just staying in there with your friends and playing Spotlight, coming home and you eat supper and you want to go back out. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing to be able to do these things, and you would resonate with this and really understand it from a deeper perspective. But yeah, that freedom and that security, and when we got into, I guess, the news and things like that, we've seen the bad that's out in the world that was produced. And that maybe could resemble that, but it was very much simple life. It was simple living. So yeah, go to the school or that Western model. The influences were there, definitely to box me in. But now looking back in hindsight, to be able to see my life and see me growing up, it would have been amazing to pull the reins off of me and other people in my town, other kids in my town, and let us be the thing we were designed to be, and to be that blossoming, blooming human in the design that we fit into, that we are accustomed to, that it comes natural to us, that we were born to be. And if that is allowed in the future, I think there is a chance to really see people, what we call reach your full potential, reach the optimal thing that's in your life here during this time. And that's why I've been diving into human design, because I also have a parallel belief that human free will is non-existent. And this is something that really something has to align in the spiritual conscious kind of modalities that aligns with this no free will as a human as well. And human design has actually done that, because I'm a natural skeptic, and I pull things through the ringer to test them against my own thought processes and my own intuition, my own feeling. And I really pound things away and see if it's woo-woo and BS, or if it actually can stand a test of time and can be something of a legacy that stays with us.
Okay, I really want to highlight that free will component because I am so curious. So, because that's quite a big Pandora's box to open, but like, maybe expand on that with what do you mean as free will in this human existence and consciousness does not exist? Because that's a huge like component of most spiritual philosophy is like, you have this predestined path and this whole, and maybe this is not what you subscribe to, but you're plopped into this human body with this soul and this contract and this like thing you're supposed to fulfill. But then there's free will. Like, so what exactly is what's your lessons with that, or what's your wisdom?
It's very new to be able to articulate and put conversation to. I think for me, it's definitely more of a knowing and a belief inside that when I feel it and I put it together, and then I hear other people that I'll highlight, Robert Cebulski and Sam Harris do a fantastic job of talking about this at length. So if you want to check out any of their stuff, I definitely recommend to people that are interested in this no free will conversation. And what I will say about it from my perspective and how I'm kind of viewing it in my own way is that it really lines up to my seat within this existence, within this avatar, this body, and my awareness, my observation, and my looking at this drama or play of life internally and externally, which are just one and the same, but the internal one is the only one that I feel subjectively, and just like you feel subjectively, and you notice and you're aware of. And then this outside is also an interpretation of what's being filtered in through my senses. So when I sit back and look at that, I don't feel that there is any agency for what it is that I do. And what I mean by that is that we look at this nation or this thing that's in front of us where we have two choices. And I believe it's an illusion that we have two choices or multiple choices, but let's just say two for simplicity. A or B. Well, A choice is such and such, and B choice is such and such. But up to this point of cause and effect, up to this point of determination, all the things before making this seemingly choice will dictate the choice that I have. And the longer that I take to make this choice and mull it over and think about it and all these things, is that I'm just wasting time. I'm just wasting all the moments till I got to this place. But also the construct of getting to this place of not being able to make a snap judgment is a part of the constructs that have made me up to this point of A or B. And if I pick A, I was always going to pick A because all the points leading to picking A were exactly what they were. So that means that there was no actual choice in my decision of A or B, because the choice that I make is in succession of every choice in a linear line moving forward. And the human free will, meaning that the ego or the mind thinking it has an ability to choose, or it's thinking that this gut feeling is the choice. It's actually just whatever this evolution, whatever this God's will be that choice. And I will go on that path. And when I give up that control, when I give up that imagination of control, my life just then becomes a vessel for what is good. Because innately, most of us are good. And the constructs that make people what we would classify as bad or evil is just what they were dealt with going into this place. So to have unconditional love and ultimate compassion for that person, we then start to treat people that's incarcerated or that have a terrible hand dealt to them. We start to treat them as differently. But we also look at people that are the top CEOs, that are born into riches and money, that are the best brain surgeon that's out there. We start to look at them not as a hierarchy, but as someone that was given a sense of constructs coming into their life to afford them the ability that they were given, they didn't earn, but they were given to go towards that. And there's a bigger appreciation when we start to see like, wow, I was born into this world and I was given this ability to be the top brain surgeon in Western medicine. Incredible. But if the person has a sense of I, the sense of me, the sense of I did it, I'm self-made, no one helped me, I struggled, I went down this road, it's very isolating and it's very egoic. So if we want to blow apart that ego, the sense of I is individualness, the idea or concept of no free will would allow our hearts to open fully.
Wow.
To understand that we are in this place, in this world, to be who we are, but the observer of what is, instead of it's me living this life, manifesting these things in front of me.
Whoa. Whoa. That was just like, that just flew. I got it. That's amazing. That just totally fucking shifted for me in such a beautiful, expansive way, the idea of free will. I think you're right onto it. Like the free will is so we try to make it like a timestamp, right? Like a 1 point. I'm just kind of reframing, I guess, so that I can understand what you just said and make sure I got it. But like, instead of the free will being a timestamp in our consciousness and in our journey from the ego, free will is reframed as a continuum, an expansive continuum of what you were, who you are now, what you're meant to be, where you're going. And it's just, it's just momentous. It's always going to have a momentum forward, and it's always going to be expanding and evolving. There's never going to be a stop point unless you create that separation with the ego of that stop point. And then I feel that what you said is like very limiting, and it's very isolating when you create that stop point of I chose this, I am this, these choices were mine. And instead of like, oh, I was given this opportunity, I was given this experience, I was giving this, even unfortunate circumstance, however you want to look at it, it was a gift instead of a choice. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm so happy that it's cool.
Yes.
I wanted to bring
and
this
to
up. So cool we did.
and
That was just mind blowing.
And to kind of reaffirm kind of what you said is this timestamp. We think about time is the construct that man made, that we start to observe and analyze our rotation as Earth, our rotation around the sun, our place in the galaxy, and we expand time out to reach this way that we can calculate things and look at stuff with consistency. And that consistency is a necessary thing for our humanness, our brain, to have survival so we can survive. So that's based in a root of fear. So when we get back to this place of this continuum rather than the timestamp, we kind of bring down time as this unnecessary thing, and we live 100% in the present moment with the ability of memory and history to have this compassion and this appreciation that we are here. And that's enough. But humans seem to complicate things, and we start to go into this place where things need to be very extravagant. And I understand how this thing works because I have the formula of E equals MC squared, and you don't understand what that is. But humans want to put this hierarchy in there to make themselves feel validated or better or something more. And people, I look at things like self-made millionaires or self-made something, fill in the blank. And I feel a little bit like, oh, that's sweet. They still think they're an individual person in this world of infinite possibility and connection. and I sit there and go, okay, yeah, it's like we still got work to do, and to undo this attachment to I made this happen, that I manifested this, that I did this or that. There's an attachment to this thing that gives me self-worth artificially and falsely within myself, that I have this life that I'm constructing, that I am building, and it's not at all. Relinquish that attachment and allow your life to flow through you. And it doesn't mean that we'll sit down and do nothing and we'll sit underneath a Bodhi tree and be the next Buddha. Is that we will still be moving through our design. We'll be moving through our place. So there is a piece that caused me pause in human design, because in the heart, I believe, Courtney, you could correct me if I'm wrong, in the heart is the seat of the will. The willpower is in the seat of the heart center. And so the heart center, with that seat of the will, I've realized or come to determine in my own study, that it isn't human will, it's God's will. And so when we say come out of the head and into the heart and do God's will, we look at that exact will seated power in the heart that we follow through, and we go into God's doing. And so whether you call it source energy or God or whatever it is for yourself, this is that will that comes through. And when we think it's our will projecting out, it's here. It's not here.
You know, it's funny. I wanted to lean into that. I was like, as you were talking earlier, I was like, one thing I like to do in life these days is I'm in the passenger seat and God is leading the way. And it's nice to not have to control the outcomes, to just kind of show up and be here, because God is leading the way. God's showing us. Like for me, I try to live my heart through God, and it takes a lot of pressure off. And I don't know, it just makes life a little bit more exciting to kind of just see what comes up.
Yeah. I love that.
I fully agree with that. Yeah.
And so like, just to bring it full circle is like, and I do love like the whole heart centered, and I love the will being from the heart. And when it goes to the mind, like that's when it's out of alignment, I love that. And then like, just to bring it all back full circle. So now that we have tackled free will as being a continuum instead of a timestamp, living by so how have you found the human design information to be inspiring to that notion of living as free will as a continuum instead of a timestamp? Like how is the human design come into your life to infuse that belief and allow you to continue to live from that place?
I can focus on what is innate within the design that I am. So instead of looking at human design and we look at the body chart or body graph, whatever you call it, we look at that and it's a little overwhelming. There's 64 there's 64 gates, there's 36 channels, there's 9 centers, there's this person sitting in cross-leg with all these boxes and triangles and lines and numbers, and it's like, wow, what is this thing? It's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy looking at it. And when you look at it and it's like, wow, that's too much, and it might keep people away because it's not as simple as some other things, and the simplicity doesn't seem in your face. So when I looked at it and looked at what was defined and undefined and conscious and unconscious and everything within my chart itself, I started to realize that now I could take all these other things and I could just put them over here in a box that I'll get to later at a later time. And when they become apparent, they'll come show themselves. And when it's necessary, they'll come together. Because it's not until I get in relation with other people that these things become something else. The thing that I'm with the most of my time is me. So what is conscious, what is defined, is the thing that is most apparent. So if I can get to know these things, why go searching for a needle in a haystack when I can just appreciate the haystack in front of me and use the utility of the haystack instead of looking for this one little special mystery thing that's in there? I can use the utility of this. So I am the haystack, and that's my conscious or defined bits. And I'm going to use that And as I'm using that and dwindling that haystack, eventually I'm going to find that needle. So there's no need for anything else. I can have ultimate patience because I'm actually doing something that's more apparent and in front of my face and in front of my emotions that I can deal with. And eventually, if it happens, I'll come across the needle.
Yes. Like your podcast, just sitting back and waiting for the time to present itself, learning the wisdom, getting the insight. And let's just lean into your profile type 3-5. You're the martyr and the heretic, and you are meant to go and live your life in trial and error and learn, because your experiences give you deep, innate wisdom that is meant to be shared. The heretic in you, people are coming to you with all their projections, but it's up to you to decide, oh, this is one I can lean into. This is one where I have insight. This is one where I have wisdom, and I can help this one. But I'm not meant to save everybody, but I am really meant to go out and fuck up, and I'm meant to go out and triumph. And that is going to help me on the journey and let me be the leader that I am innately am.
Mm.
Yeah, that line 3. So we talked about if we let children lean into and learn their design, that is one that if I was told that at a young age, especially coming out of high school, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I joined the Army at 18. And well, I did know what I wanted to do. I joined the Army at 18, but I went through life where 3 years or less was my cutoff for change. I would need something new 3 years or less. And I thought that was a terrible thing. I couldn't lock anything down. I couldn't do this long relationship. I couldn't do this long relationship with my job or my work. And it was line 3 textbook. It was textbook line 3. And so if I was told this at a young teenage age that I would do this and this is natural for me to do this, while other people don't do this, this is you. This is your ability to do this. So I always called myself the jack of all trades, the master of none. Boom, that's the martyr. So I look at this and this line 3 and I'm like, wow.
It makes sense.
Looking at this profile, it totally makes sense. It lines up for me. And as this starts to illuminate and line up and I can see how much I fit into this, now I'm curious to branch this out as I go through understanding it more, if other people fall into this. And so it's like a confirmation or validation that this design, this human design concept, this understanding actually has a lot of merit. And so as I go into it more for myself and my self-diagnosis and see where I fit in, and then take it through the gauntlet of scrutinization in each bit, I start to see that it really does have a great foundation for people. And I want to be able to use this moving forward in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I think, yeah, go for it.
Go ahead. You go. Okay. Well, I mean, you had mentioned on our phone call that you are now, going into the manifesting generators, switching gears. You're wanting to write a book about human design. And it's that, like, I love hearing your knowledge. I love seeing your insights because it is coming natural to you. So have you started? Is it just kind of in the mind's eye? What's the blueprint on it?
It's all running parallel with itself, which is really interesting. And I'm observing and understanding why it's happening in parallel. So I'm learning it. I'm applying it to myself. I'm projecting it out towards people and sharing the information with certain people that I know. And I'm also putting such an emphasis because my makeup, my mind needs to have something that has a big kind of importance to it. So there's an insecurity inside of me, this self-worth, this being good enough, that I'm leveraging to put into the title of I'm writing a book. So it has to be cited, it has to be seen, it has to be done well, it has to be done to the point where I don't get scrutinized or judged.
Right.
I'm taking this insecurity and I'm using it and leveraging it in a way that is healthy, because I know how important it is that if I just compile this information for myself, whatever, right? Like I can be lax, I can miss things, I can have holes. But if I'm writing a book at the same time, I'm putting something out to the public that I want to make sure that I'm not misleading anybody with this
It's deep.
information.
It's an iceberg. It's a fucking iceberg. Me and my friend will go, sorry to cut you off, but I want to get this thought out there. It's me and my friend would go into deep dives. You can talk about one minuscule thing and you can literally be there for an hour. So the fact that you want to do this right, you want people to understand it with depth and with integrity, because it can be misleading. You really have to find your readers, find your human design readers, and be like, use your discernment. Does this feel good in your soul? Because the information can be misleading, and it's deep. It is deep work. So good with the integrity. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
It's necessary. It's necessary for me to be in that place of integrity. And as I said, the leveraging of this insecurity, the opposite side, because everything has its equal and opposite, it is that side of integrity and authenticity and who I want to show up as, the accountability that I have, and the reverence for something that has a lot of meaning, because I see so much out there that I'm observing from different modalities that people are kind of like laxing into or becoming a little bit complacent with. And whatever their timelines are, whatever they're going through, that's what we would deem as their karma and the stuff that they're dealing with. It does, for me, put a dimmed light on something that has so much emphasis that can be so powerful for people. And when we don't take things, I wouldn't say serious, but when we don't take things as heartfelt or heart-centered, and we really walk in, we represent this thing, whether it's breath work or plant medicine or even an MD, medical doctor. If we don't step into this thing with full transparency, with our heart leading wide open and going into this thing for the right reasons and the right causes, we fall short of the goal line. We fall short of the ability that this thing has to offer to other people. So when we are in service of other people, like, we want to step to the plate with our full ability to hit that home run. We don't want to just bunt it out. We want to smash that thing home. So why not take that ability? And if that means you see one patient, if you're a doctor, you see one patient a week, or if you can handle to do that at a level of 100 patients a week, then whatever your level to show up to hit that home run each and every time is where we need to be. And so it's okay, because then we have, like, the medical system's a great thing because that's an institution. So it's all about productivity and the dollars. And so they say you can only do 10-minute or 15-minute sessions with your client. That's not enough to do shit. Like, there is some people that come in, they know exactly what they need. I have an infection there. I need this medication. Boom, you're in 15 minutes. Someone that doesn't have any kind of knowledge of their body-mind connection, 15 minutes is nothing.
No.
So we try to fit things in boxes rather than letting things bloom on their own. Like, I wouldn't look at a row of blueberries in the wild and go over and see this beautiful bush with lots of blueberries and go to that one and then disregard the other ones that are there. That other one just might bloom late. That other one actually in 5 years might be bigger, while the other one, like, gets overpicked. Like, there's so many things within this long timeline or this long trajectory of life on this planet that we disregard. And so if we allow ourselves to get into that present moment, to have more self-awareness, to have more observation of the world around us and are taking it in through perspective, and allow ourselves to be fully whole here, it's a process. And this is the evolution of consciousness. And it's going to take time. And so patience is a virtue. And that is one that when I had my own kind of boom, my brain blew up and everything came to light for me, patience was one of the 3 pillars that came in. And that one has stuck with me because it's been with me and pushed away from my childhood. And the thing you push away, the most comes back, and that pendulum swing, and it came back full force for me. And it recognizing, like, patience is such an ally for me. And as a manifesting generator that runs around and does 1,000 things at once and gets the jack of all trades, patience has been this wisdom fucking rock that, like, it's been incredible. It's the staff that I hold. It truly is a staff that I hold, and
I feel that.
it's a beautiful companion.
Yeah, I feel that.
Man, I love that. I'm excited for your book to come out now. I think it's going to be so potent, and I love the integrity behind it. I think that's the big, takeaway is like doing it with integrity, like that you're so 100%, like doing it with 1,000% integrity, not just 50% integrity, and putting your all into it. So I'm excited for that to come out. When it does hit the shelves, it's going to be so cool. And I hope for anybody listening, like they have a little spark, because this is, I think, like the second time we've talked about human design on the podcast, and
maybe even third. I mean, I'm often. I like to geek out. I love human design.
Because, just for everybody listening, like it is a divine system that was created and channeled from like various other systems that exist within our, world of trying to get to know ourselves better. Our birth charts, it pulls in from astrological information, it pulls in from the I Ching, it pulls in from the chakra system. So it's how I first heard it explained, and what really hooked me was like, it's the way that, like, so as your birth chart is the maybe landmarks for your life. It's maybe the way that your life's going to unfold. People like to say you can look at it for guidance in different phases of your life. And so for me, birth chart is more of the pragmatic way of the way your life's going to unfold, where human design is the way your energy is supposed to show up, which I think is even more massively important. Is like how to honor your energy every day so that you're not feeling exhausted, you're not feeling like you're spinning your wheels for no reason, that you're not being seen, you're not being heard, because you're just maybe not operating in the way that your energy is supposed to show up. So I just like, that was the hook for me that got me into the human design years ago. And I remember my first reading, I was like, I never felt more seen in my life. I never felt more validated of the ways that I was invalidating myself in my life. I was like, wow, okay. So all these things that I felt ashamed about, that I felt was weird, that I felt was like, and really I felt those ways because people told me those things. And so society made me feel like that wasn't appropriate. But truly, it's like definitely a system that's meant to take all the walls off the room and the ceiling, and take any box away and any label that you've ever put on yourself. And it really allows you to just show up as you are, who you are. And I think that's the most beautiful gift that we can give ourselves, and then everybody else in the room with us, because, once we show up as we're meant to show up, and I think once you gain the lens of human design, you allow others to show up how they're supposed to show up. So you actually interact with the world in a way where you take everybody else out of their box, and you're like, oh, cool. Okay. You're in a room with someone. Oh, I wonder if they're a manifester. You start to think about people differently. You start to interact with the world differently, and you allow humans to be how they're supposed to be energetically, which isn't always in the confines that we like to put people in. So I value human design. For anybody listening, I value it so much, just for those reasons. So also, like, super appreciative, Justin, for all that wisdom that you also shared about it, and just beautiful analogy with the haystack, and just not focusing on all the intricacies of a very complicated system. Truly, it's a very, very divine system that this I forget his name right now. Who was the guy that channeled it?
Oh my God.
Ra.
Ra. Okay. He's like, it's something very basic. I was like, I'm forgetting his name though. But anyways, like, very divine, complicated system he channeled, but like, just to take it and learn the things that are conscious, like that's such an easy way to tackle it, and just be like, oh, cool. I'm going to get real comfortable with who I know I am, and validate that part of me. And then everything else will just show up, as it's reflected to you. And so that was really beautiful wisdom that I appreciate gaining in this conversation. So, all
Oh,
right.
you're welcome.
I feel like we could continue talking forever and ever. But we'll kind of wrap it up. And I guess I would love to know, we've kind of heard that you're doing virtual men's circles right now, and maybe in the future expanding that back into the co-ed arena. Is there anything else that you're like offering to the community right now, or anything you're really excited about coming up in the future that you want to share?
Things that are unfolding for me right now, I'm definitely diving deep into the human design side of stuff. And since this is new for me, I always start out new things with either donations or what I would call dana, as well as free things like readings or abilities to take people on a place that is just it's free. It's free service because I'm learning. So the payment for me is the experience in itself. Outside of that, I am still doing coaching for men specifically. So men's one-on-one coaching, as I have an online program with 100 videos that's gone through a software online through a website. And with that, I'm also doing medicine. So I can do groups, but it's usually one-on-one. So that's with Kambo, Repe, Sananga, 5-MeO, DMT, psychedelic assisted, and to be able to hold space for people as they're going through and working with these medicines. So to box it all in, I guess it's medicine that I work with that is from South America, as well as the psychedelic therapy, and then the men's coaching. And then human design is this new blossoming thing that I think is going to tie these together, or I'm going to move away from a little bit of what I do and reconstruct everything that's here. But no retreats this summer. This summer has been about hobbies, finding myself on a personal level. So I've been doing things like Latin dance and going to music festivals and reconnecting with friends and this idea of human design and living through it.
Oh,
Very fun.
beautiful.
Love that. Love that.
And
Balance.
yeah, totally. I love that. And then I have a question. Where did Opus come from? What is the background behind that name?
Yeah, so opus is Latin for work. And when I looked at the modalities and the things that I was doing, so I first got trained in pranayama breath work, understanding the full range of breath work, not just from the strong yogic technique like holotropic, but all the way down to the subtle side of mindfulness practices and getting into the subtle energies within the koshas of yourself and your energetic bodies. Looking at that and then going into the medicine then and then into the psychedelic therapy, it was like a 3-step kind of thing I put together. Recognizing after I did this, I went into coaching, realizing that our cognitive ability and our conscious awareness is outside of the cross-legged seated position where we are blissed out and sitting there in our meditation. But it's when we're in traffic or with our loved ones or coworkers or in a grocery store, and if we are getting agitated, frustrated, or lashing out in old tendencies, in that moment is where we do the work. It's in those moments that life actually happens and it gives you the test. So in that time of doing the work, like Byron Katie talks about, opus is Latin for work, and it's in life every moment that we are conscious or unconscious that we are ability to do that work. And that's where opus comes from. And this circle is a symbol of being able to break out of that karmic cycle. So going around and having the ability to break out. Doing the work gives you and affords you that ability to cut the cords on your karma.
Oh, I love it. Wow, cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
So where can we find you? Where are the ways that everybody can find you?
Social media is probably the easiest. So my personal Facebook is Justin McCarthy with a C, MCC. Newfound Awakening Opus or Newfound Awakening website, Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty active on social media to be able to converse with people back and forth. And I'll be growing more posts per day. That's going to be now pertaining towards human design as well. So Newfound Awakening, Opus, Newfound Awakening. You'll find me through any of those on any of the platforms.
Very cool. We'll link all those too in the show notes. And
Yeah.
I've like going back to the original, what was on your heart is gratitude. I am so grateful that super grateful that we got to highlight your consciousness today, and that little nuggets and beautiful big nuggets of wisdom came through. So like super grateful for your time. Definitely grateful to have this conversation. And, maybe down the road, we'll have you on again to do a little chit chat about, where you're at in life at that point. So any other things you want to share, Courtney?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for your time and energy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, until next time, everybody, thank you so much for listening.